we've all read this verse in Genesis 2 where God says, therefore a man shall leave his mother and father, or his father and mother, and be joined with his wife, right? You can finish the sentence or the verse, right? And the two shall become one flesh. So I think the biggest lie that verse is used in marriage is this. Two people get married. They are joined in marriage, and now all of a sudden they are one. Is that actually true? I don't think that's actually true. Now follow me here, because I'm just talking about a thought here, and let's really think about this and kind of back it up with scripture. So the scripture says the two shall become one flesh, right? Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined with his wife. That joining, I believe, is marriage. You are joined together. You are connected now. You are, you said your vows and you went through the little ceremony or whatever. All right. I'm not trying to get over spiritual here, but I want to really kind of nail this down, because I do think it might not be a lie, right? But I do think there is some clarification, some heavy clarification that really needs to be identified in this verse. One thing that we always seem to miss, or we don't put a lot of thought into, is that second part of the verse. That second part of the verse, go ahead, verse 24 in chapter 2. That word become, we tend to kind of overlook that and just skate over that. But I think it's important to know that the verse says, and the two shall become one flesh. What is define become. Let's think about that seriously. Define become. Think of a caterpillar, right? A caterpillar goes into, let me back up. One day, caterpillar's walking around. He decides to go to sleep, wakes up in 30 minutes, and now he's a butterfly, right? No, that's not it at all. That's not how that works. Caterpillar goes and makes himself a cocoon, right? And in that cocoon, there is this crazy transformation that happens. And he becomes a butterfly, right? So when we get married, yeah, we're joined with each other, but we don't become one flesh immediately. We're joined immediately, but we don't become immediately. Become implies that there is a time aspect of it, or there's some type of process that happens, right? I mean, come on. Think about it. You become something. Okay, if you become a doctor, did you just wake up and like, oh yeah, I'm a doctor now? Okay, some people think that they're all kinds of stuff, right? But in order to become a doctor, there's this whole process. So if we apply this thought, if we apply this principle, it's got to apply across the board, right? So when we look at that, I truly believe, especially when it comes to Tay and I, that we are becoming, right? We are becoming one flesh. Scripture doesn't say you'll be joined with your wife and you are one flesh. Scripture says that you will become one flesh. Okay, all right, Jeremy, you're beating this into the ground. Show me somewhere else, right? Okay, let's think about sanctification. Is sanctification overnight? Of course not. Sanctification is a process. You get convicted on certain things, and there's a whole process. You're not like this overnight project. You're a long-term project. I mean, you know that. I know that. If we were just to be one flesh, right? Or if we were just to, we give our life to Christ that day, yeah, our spirit is now seated, right? But our flesh, we don't become, we're not just like Christ in our flesh immediately, right? I mean, he was the ultimate example. I mean, he knocked it out of the park in perfection in his flesh, right? Paul says, be imitators of Christ. What is that? Somewhere in Ephesians 4, I think. I don't know. I think it's like the first verse somewhere. Yeah, Paul says, be imitators of Christ, right? Another verse says, put on Christ, right? Another verse says, you got to die to self every single day. There's these thoughts, there's this process, there's these principles of doing that allow us to become. Think about discipline, right? You've got discipline and correction, and you've got discipline and habit, or training our bodies in doing something. Say you go to the gym, right? You have a discipline in going to the gym. You have a discipline in making better food choices. You have a discipline in maybe waking up at 5 a.m. to get your day started or whatever. There's that discipline. There's that becoming. You're not just really great at going to the gym right off the bat. I don't know anybody who's like, hey, you know what? I've never been to the gym before, but I'm going to get a gym membership, and this is just what I do now. I am that I am now. No, man. That's not true at all. So when we look at that principle, tell me if you're following me on this, right? This is just you and I chopping it up right now. Tell me if you're following me on this, and if you've ever thought of it. If you've thought of it and you're like, yeah, I already knew that. Okay, when did you figure it out? Because Tay and I were sitting there chatting about it. Golly, maybe about a month ago, and it dawned on me. I was like, you know what? Scripture doesn't say that we are one flesh. It says we become, right? And we become more Christ-like in our walk with Christ, in our sanctification, in our pruning, right? There's another principle, another verse where it talks about God's like pruning, we get transformed. In marriage. I think it's really difficult becoming one flesh. It's never easy. If anybody says that it's easy to become one, look, it's easy to be joined, right? You can be joined. What does it take to be joined? Well, you just be like, oh, okay, well, let's go, let's file, I'm talking about the laws of the land, right? Let's just go get our marriage certificate, let's get an officiant, and let's be joined. Boom, you're joined, right? But becoming is so much more, man. That's why marriage is much deeper than a piece of paper. Man, everybody has heard this term. Oh, you don't need to be married. You don't need to be married to be married. Marriage is just a piece of paper. Marriage is just a piece of paper, Jeremy. Man, look, it's not just a piece of paper. One person, I just need one person in the comments to say, things stayed the same. We were living together, unmarried, and then we got married and nothing changed. One person in the comments, tell me that. No, because I truly believe it does change. It does change because it's a different mindset. It's a different act. You're not just You're not just like shacking up and playing house. Now there's this sense of commitment. There's a sense of devotion to the other person that carries way more weight than just, oh, we're just living together playing house. I mean, I'm guilty of that. But I think marriage, becoming one flesh is a lot harder than just being joined together. What do y'all think? Because becoming requires you to, one, die to self, right? Becoming requires you to examine yourself. Becoming requires you to admit whatever that looks like. Admit ... right across the board, right? Admit that you're selfish. Admit that you have self-centeredness. Admit that you might do things intentionally to hurt that other person. Man, admitting admitting challenges your pride. Dude, we don't like to think that we got pride, but get married, man. Marriage will expose everything that you feel you don't struggle with, or everything that you feel like you are healed from. Guaranteed. Marriage will expose all of that, because now you are in a commitment. You are in a choice. You are in an agreement to say, hey, you know what? I love this person more. I love this person, and I will do whatever. It requires two people to do that. And you may say, Jay, man, what if one person isn't playing the game, right? But the other person is showing up, doing the work. You can't become like that. It takes two people to become. It says, and the two will become one flesh. Man, if you got somebody that ain't showing up. Okay, think of it like this, right? You watch football game. Anybody football fans or soccer fans, boxing fan, MMA fans? I'm an MMA fan. I like boxing, right? I like combat sports. And so if there's a if two people are supposed to show up in the daggum ring and only one person shows up, how are they going to be able to put on a show? You can't. It takes two people. And so I really think that verse hits different. It hits different when you break it down and you really start thinking about it. Like, man, becoming one is more than just being one. Becoming one is more than just being one. What do y'all think? Let me know. Love y'all.